history is the one who tells us so many of the stories that have entered into Catholic tradition and theology that the Protestants should pay attention to. You know, the ones that talk about Peter being crucified upside down in Rome, you know, all these stories. Eusebius tells us he was bishop here. The stone, well, let's come here a little bit closer. I want you to tell me something about the stones used as fragments.
Granite, marble.
Who was that? David, were you asking yesterday? Is that the same thing that was on those hills, I wonder? Was that you asking that? No. About why the sheep weren't eating?
Come up off the path so folks can go back and forth a bit. You have stones on this side, you have stones on that side. Those stones are the columns there behind you. Just the closest are granite. These are marble. What did I say about building out of local building materials? For the Bedouin, it's goat hair. For the Bedouin tent in Jerusalem, it's the hard limestone. In Caeserea, the local building material is sandstone, kind of a rough, tannish sandstone, like the theater. That's not this. Not only do we have imported ideas and products, we have imported building material. So the marble coming from Turkey or Greece or Italy, and the granite from up the Nile, Upper Egypt. Massive movement of product, so that when Caesar comes here, looks like home, right? That's why the golden arches, doesn't matter what the language is underneath it, they're going to be the same, right? Says something. This particular object, you've got a top and a bottom. They were not the same object. The bottom had a top, the top had a bottom. Wasn't the same object, but they're put together here because we have both. This is a coffin, it's a sarcophagus. Sarcophagus, flesh eater is what the word means. I want you to look at the top and then the bottom. Look at some of the symbols on here. First of all, the overall shape of the top is the roof of a house. We have others in other places where you even have the shingles, like tile shingles. The roof of a house, this is the eternal home, right? The eternal abode of the dearly departed. But in addition to the shape of a roof, you've got these projections on the four corners. These projections are the same size and the same shape as horns on altars that we find in Israel and in Canaan. Horns of the altar. They were on altars of live animal sacrifice and altars of incense. On live animal sacrifice, they were put here so you could rope down the animal and then kill it on the altar, right? But they become an image of God's communication and protection of the person who is giving the sacrifice. Semitic image, an Israelite image, a Judean image of God at the altar. And people who were in trouble would put their arms around the horns of the altar and say, I'm throwing myself on the mercy of God. So you have those on the sarcophagus in Byzantine-era Christian Caesarea as a remnant of the past, to say there's something in this land that is remembered about the Semitic Jewish way of life. All right? More of that, there's an inscription on here. All right, so I need my seminary students to see what they can do with this one. Anybody want to get some brackets and Greek here? Let me help you out. Isn't it tough when you're asked to read an inscription in the field?
Where's Dino?
Right?
Dino.
Okay, first of all, you got two lines. The lines begin and end with a cross. This is not a Greek letter, this is a cross. So the guy is Christian. And on the top you have the name, and on the bottom you have the word diakonoi. Diakonoi. Deacon. Deacon. This guy was a deacon here. So a church official in Caesarea, buried with a very nice sarcophagus. This says something not only about the international trade connections, it says something about the wealth of the church and the way that this guy wants to be. This is his monument. This is his nefesh, his monument in stone.
What church?
Just the church, the Byzantine.
Okay.
Byzantine. This is once Rome says Christianity is legal. the church becomes very cushy
Okay.
and wealthy.
That makes sense.
And why don't we go back
You
to the
threw
other
me
way?
when you said the wealth.
Byzantine. Yes,
Yeah,
this is
okay.
post-Constantine. This is when the church got. We have Messianic Jewish friends who went to China a couple of years ago to visit the underground church in China. And they were told that the second largest identity, number of people who have an identity, the first is Chinese communism. The second largest identity, number of people with a common identity is Christian in China. So much so that the government in China, the official government, was thinking, they said, we recognize already certain churches, but maybe we should recognize all of them. And the church said, don't you dare recognize us. Don't you dare. That's going to come with all kinds of ropes around our neck and expectations. We want to be independent. Yeah, we want to be underground. Look what happened when Constantine got a hold of the church. Look at the nice tomb he has. That's wonderful. Other things happened as well that compromised what was inside. All right. The bottom is a different sarcophagus. It has very different images on it. It has the disc and the crescent of the Canaanite deities. The moon god and the sun god. The moon god and the sun god. And the moon god crescent doubles as the horns
Baal.
of the bull, Baal. All you Texas fans, all right? You're doing a Baal thing right there, right? The horns of the bull.
Everyone else already knew that.
Everybody else. You got any A&Mers here? Do we have any? You guys are so confident. All right. Just give me the Big Ten, and
You
I'm
just
happy.
threw gas on
Just
the
give me
fire.
the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I'm happy. All right. You got the moon god represented here, doubling as Baal. Baal being the god of fertility, literally inseminating the ground so Mother Earth can grow. This is part of the idea in Canaanite religion, worldwide as well. John Oswalt was so helpful here. John Oswalt he's your professor and mine. He was at Trinity for 3 years. I got him then. And he was so insightful in so many things, including trying to understand this indigenous worldview that Israel was entering into. I just love him for that. And here you've got the bull and the sun, the lesser light that rules the night and the greater light that rules the day that God creates are being paganized here. And you've got that on this sarcophagus as well. Mixed ideas. Like in any big city, any big place where there's multiple populations, you got all of this stuff going on, right? All of this stuff going on. Caeserea represents that. Please, it's opportunity and threat, hand in hand. Opportunity and threat, hand in hand. Jim Monson, the guy who did your maps and the marking guide for the maps, like a John Oswalt, he is so insightful. And he talks about down here on the coast in the time of the New Testament, a place where people are forced to choose. Do you accommodate and become part of, or do we confront and stand against? Which do you do? And the point is, we do both on different issues. It depends. Our lines are drawn in different places. The amount of confrontation, the amount of accommodation will vary with who we are and what the issue is. And where do you draw the line for yourself? Here, it's the old Canaanite, it's the Roman pagan. For us, it's other things that are happening. Yeah? That define what the world is and what we are. Paul the Apostle said it very succinctly. He said, you're in the world but not of it. And we've spent the last 2,000 years figuring out what that means. Right? And that's the challenge of the pastor, actually. You know? All of you, I don't know you well enough yet, but I'm going to say this anyway. All of you have had or are in the middle of very challenging and difficult and productive careers. All right? My view is the hardest job that anybody has in America is to be a faithful pastor in the midst of the rest of what the world does, where there is no room for the kind of compromise that's going to undermine your soul. All right? It's a very, 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 very difficult task. All right? Very difficult. The Apostle Paul gives us a model. Jesus gave us a model, the same and different, as we've talked about. It was the same and different. It just depends on where the lines are drawn. And if I can get you out of here in a week and a half, seeing how, what would Jesus do? And what did Peter and Paul do? And then what would you do? In the issues where you draw the line. You know? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
I heard you say the bottom description there was deacon. What was the
Diakonoi. The top is the guy's name.
Can you read the name?
I have it written down somewhere.
Looks like it's a Greek name.
It is a Greek name.
Come on, Dino.
Get out here, Dana. Get out here. Here's the- let's see.
Okay. Oh, the, that's the theta.
Yep.
The
Ki, ro,
pro,
ko, lon.
propylone. Yeah.
Sound off. Couldn't hear you. Phi, ki, pro, colon.
What?
What's your name?
We didn't
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
talking the wrong
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
John knows what was right, and you don't know, fake it to confident.